G'day everybody, welcome to an Affinity Photo composite tutorial. Starting off with this picture here that I've got on the side here called the building edge. You can see that I've got all of my pictures that I'm going to use here on the right hand side. First of all, let's get rid of this background here. We just want the building edge here. So let's come over to our pen tool and let's just make a selection here around this building all the way to the edge and join those up. What we'll do is we'll come over here to where it says selection. We'll invert the selection up here and hit delete on our keyboard. Let's get rid of those marching ants and come back to our move tool and just let's get that building so we've got no white space there. That looks pretty good. The next picture that we'll bring in is the picture of the city. So I've got the picture of the city here in the background, and on that city I'm just going to blur that background a little bit with a Gaussian blur. Let's make sure we click on preserve alpha and just blur that up tiny little bit. That looks about perfect, 2 pixels. We'll click off that. The next picture that we're going to bring over is the picture of this hole that I've got here. So I'm still on my move tool, just going to move this around. But what we need to do is use our perspective tool. So I'm just going to make that a little bit smaller with my command minus. Come over here to our live filters and come all the way down to perspective. And what I'm going to do is just drag these nodules out here all the way down so we can get that hole looking like it's on top of this building here. Bring this one back down as well. And that's not looking too bad. Maybe we can stretch that out a little bit. Okay, let's leave it like that. That looks pretty good. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to re-rasterize that so I don't have the perspective on there anymore, and just resize it. And I'm just going to resize it up in the corner here. I'm also going to make a copy of that with Command J, so I've got 2, so we'll call this one hole 2. Rename that, so we've got 2, and I'm going to move one a little bit smaller just over in this section here, so maybe right in the corner there. Now on this one you can see we've got some of the part of the hole coming over the building, so I'm just going to clean that up. I'll just grab my erase tool and make that brush a little bit bigger. The flow and opacity is 100%, that's okay, because we just want to get rid of any of that that's hanging over the building. It doesn't look good. And that should do it about there. Okay, so we've got our 2 holes in place here. The next picture that I'm going to bring over is the picture of this tentacle here. So I've got this picture here. Come up to our move tool, just make it a little bit bigger. And I just want to cut out just the tentacle. So I'll come over here to my selection brush tool and make my brush a little bit bigger with my right bracket key, and I'll just make a selection of this tentacle here. You see it's a fairly quick selection. What I'm going to do though is come up here to select, grow and shrink, and I'm going to shrink that selection by -1 and hit apply, and that just shrinks the selection a little bit into the picture here. The other thing I'll do is come up to select and smooth, and I'm just going to smooth that selection by 2 pixels. We'll come up here to our invert selection again and hit delete on our keyboard, and then Command D to get rid of those marching ants. We can see if we grab our move tool, still got a little bit of this white left on here, so I'll just quickly grab my erase brush tool, make my brush really small, and just see if I can get rid of that. Without destroying that too much. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. So back on my move tool, I'm going to place that tentacle right in that hole there. So about there looks pretty good. Let's have a look at that. Let's go Command 0 to have a little look. That doesn't look too bad. and Command minus to make it a little bit smaller. So that's going to be tentacle center, and I'm going to make another copy, Command J, and this one can be tentacle left. We'll make that one a little bit smaller. We'll put that in this hole over here and come up to arrange and flip horizontal in this hole here. You can see we've got some of that picture left over that we missed, so I'll just grab my rectangular marquee tool and just make a lasso selection around that and hit delete. Command D, that takes care of that, and we'll just place that. We might want it a bit bigger, maybe we'll lean it a little bit as well and see how that looks. Pretty good about there. Let's make another copy, Command J. This one can be tentacle right, so we're going to have 3 of these tentacles, and this one I'm going to move down underneath the building's edge here. Make that a bit smaller. Again, we've still got some of that picture left over here. We'll take care of that nice and quick. Hit delete, Command D. Back on our move tool, and again we'll make this one arrange, flip horizontal, and we'll make it a bit bigger, give it a bit of a lean, and we'll put it on the building's edge here. Maybe a bit smaller, right on the edge there. Command minus to make that a bit smaller so we can have a better look. Okay, so we've got all of our tentacles in place here. So the next picture that we are going to bring in is this picture of sort of this debris or particles here. So on this, we'll come to the blend modes and we'll change the blend mode to screen, just get rid of the black here. There's a couple of things on this picture that I don't really want on here. So again, I'll come over to my erase brush tool. We'll have the flow and hardness still at 100%. I'll make my brush a little bit bigger. I want to get rid of this piece here. We don't need that. We don't need this piece here. It just doesn't look like it's going to belong. And also this piece here. Just get rid of that. You can see on here we've got a bit of a harsh edge here. So I'll stay on my erase brush tool, but I'll bring the flow down probably to about 25%. Make my brush a little bit bigger, and I'll just see if I can just sort of get rid of that harsh edge a little bit. We don't really want. There we go. Okay, let's come back on our move tool. Now the first one we're going to place is sort of right in front of this hole here. A little bit of debris coming out of the hole. What we might do on that one is we'll put a recolor on it. So come down here to adjustments and recolor, and we'll clip that to the debris. And I'm going to make it into the sort of bluey, like the blue of the building here. These lights in the building, sort of maybe about there. Bring the saturation down and maybe just darken that up a little bit. It's not too bad. While we're here with that recolor, so we've done that recolor, I might just copy it and bring that down onto the building's edge as well and open it up. And again, we might bring that saturation down and maybe the lightness up a little bit. That looks pretty good. Okay, back to our debris. Let's make another copy, Command J. And this time we're going to make that smaller. Let's turn it around so it looks a little bit different. Let's put that in front of this little hole here. And one more copy, Command J, and I want this one all the way under these tentacles at the back here. And I'm going to really stretch this one out a little bit. Make that a bit smaller. Let's turn it around so we've got that debris going off towards the city in the distance there. That looks about right. Okay, Command 0. This one I'm going to make a bit bigger. Looks better, a bit bigger. Let's have them going into each other. So that looks a bit better there. Maybe we can make this one a bit bigger as well. Now with this one flying off into the distance, this one here, what I'm going to do is add a mask. On that mask, I'm going to come over here to my gradient tool, And I'm just going to click on the gradient tool and then just click here. We'll turn it around so we've got white down the bottom and black up the top. And so we'll just make that look like they're going off into the distance a little bit. That looks pretty good. Okay, back onto our move tool. So I'm pretty happy with that so far. The next thing we're going to do is do a little bit of a color and some highlights on these tentacles. So let's start off with the center one. I'm going to come down to my adjustments. I'm going to add a exposure first and clip that to the tentacle. I'm going to bring that up quite bright, about like that. Then I'm going to hit on my keyboard Command I to invert that selection. Get rid of that. Again, we'll come down to recolor. We'll clip that to our center tentacle, and again we'll come and find that blue about there. I think we'll bring down the saturation a bit. Maybe bring up the lightness a little bit, and we'll do the same, Command I. So now let's have a look. We'll start with exposure. We'll come over here to our brush tool. On our brushes, we're just going to get a nice soft round brush. Make sure that we're on that exposure. Remember, on our colors, white reveals, black conceals. So we're going to hit X on our keyboard to swap those colors. Flow of about 25%. I might keep it like that at the moment. And let's just brush in a little bit of light where we think maybe the buildings are reflecting. And a bit up here. Just fade it off into there. Maybe a little bit round here. About like that, looks pretty good. You can always adjust it. Let's now click on the recolor for that tentacle. Might drop the flow for this one to maybe 10%. And let's get a little bit of that blue. Fade that off. A little bit there. If you think you've done too much, you can just hit X on the keyboard and then just maybe go over lightly to get a little bit less. Back to white, hitting X on the keyboard. I think I'm happy with that. Yeah, just do a little bit more. Okay, we're going to do the same thing to these other two tentacles. But what I'm going to do is just hold Shift and copy the recolor and the exposure they've done. Command J, so I've got two. Now just drag those up and add them to the left tentacle. Close the center one, and then we can do the same thing. Just click on the exposure. Flow back up to 25%. We're still on that nice soft round brush, so let's get a little bit, maybe the light's coming just in these sections here. Onto the recolor, down to 10, and maybe just add some of that color. Not too bad. I'm doing it quite quickly, but you can take a little bit more time and see where you want to put that. Okay, we'll do the same again. We'll hold our Shift and highlight that recolor and exposure. Command J, and we'll drag those down. Grab both of them, drag them down to the last tentacle, and we'll do the same. Okay, not too bad. Okay, let's go back. I've got all of our pictures in place here. Let's come over now and just right click and go merge visible. We'll finish off in the develop persona. Just on basics, I might come over here and turn up the clarity a little bit. Bring the exposure down a little bit. Bring the vibrance up. Over onto details, we might bring both of these up to about 50% roughly, and then on add noise, just going to add a little bit of noise into this picture and hit develop. There you go, everybody. That is my composite tutorial in Affinity Photo. All the photos that I have used for this tutorial I will link below. They're all Pexels or Pixabay. So I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing to my channel. And until next time, I'll say to you, stay well, stay safe, and I'll see you in my next video.